Good morning. Well, it's been about 8 days since my last video, and I gotta tell you, it's nice to have my voice back. So, this video is made expressly for Sarah. She is one of my second quarter students. Now, if you're not Sarah, you can still watch this video. If you're not a second quarter student, you can still watch this video. But please do bear in mind, it would be more meaningful if you were one of my students. So as soon as you can, register for the next series of weekly webinars, and get some Dharma instruction under your belt. Okay, so Sarah, this is going to be a recap of yesterday's lesson. Everything that I teach during a Dharma class could fit under one of two headings. Either the Tibetan term, let's go over here. Either the Tibetan term Lama or the Tibetan term Chag Chen. Now, in the off chance that you don't speak Tibetan, we could say everything I teach fits in the headings of the intellectual teachings that address the mind and emotion and behavior, or the mystic techniques that address the channels and the winds and the drops and the experiences of deep bliss and deep peace. So to put it even more succinctly, the teachings or the techniques. An example of the teachings would be the verbal wisdom techniques taught in the first lesson, the silent wisdom techniques taught in the second lesson, which of course we're talking about the teachings now. The compassion trainings taught in the third lesson, the gratitude trainings taught in the fourth lesson, the love trainings taught in the fifth lesson, and the renunciation trainings taught in the sixth lesson. And when I refer to the techniques, let's see if here we go, almost coordinated now. When I refer to the techniques, I refer to the techniques of awareness and letting go, taught in the first lesson, the techniques of alternate nostril breathing, Buddhist version of alternate nostril breathing, taught in the second lesson, the techniques, the introduction to the central channel yogas taught in the third lesson, the more advanced central channel yogas taught in the fourth lesson, or the love and letting go techniques that are also known as the rainbow yoga techniques or the rainbow body techniques that are taught in the fifth lesson. So one of the things you may say is that's a lot of information relatively quickly, and you'd be right. One of the things that makes me considered to be a radical Lama is that I move people along just as quickly as possible. I teach that the teachings, the Lama, the intellectual trainings, are all about helping us to acquire the spiritual mastery of Buddha, whereas the Chag Chen or the techniques are all about helping us to acquire the spiritual resiliency of an arhat. And according to Buddha, according to the ancient texts, these accomplishments do not require lifetimes or even decades. They can be accomplished as little as 7 years, 7 months, or 7 weeks, or even 7 days. So, when I have my intention set on the future, is to be able to teach a 14-day enlightenment retreat, where people go with the intention that they are going to come out and they're going to leave as a high bodhisattva, at the very least a high bodhisattva. It's 2 weeks, and it could be justified as, the first week is the techniques, and the second week is actually practicing them. Another way of saying it is, it's 4 lessons a day for 14 days, which is basically a year's worth of weekly webinars. Now, it's not designed to give someone help someone completely memorize everything Buddha ever taught. It's designed to help someone accomplish spiritual resiliency of an arhat and spiritual mastery of a Buddha. That I've explored those 2 concepts in various videos. So, with the idea that we can move quickly, we can really be on our way to accomplishing, if not completely accomplishing, full enlightenment in as little as a fortnight. So basically, I've taken the fortnight, or the 14-day retreat, and divided it into, let's say, 4 times 14 lessons, turning it into 4 times 14 weeks, basically a year. So we move rapidly. And someone said, why not move quicker? Why not teach all yogas in one night? And the answer is people's brains explode. If you go too fast, people can't process, they get overwhelmed and discouraged. As it is, I move very fast, and most fundamentalist Buddhist teachers are, frankly, appalled with how fast I go as it is. My only question is, every week, do people walk away with more pragmatic techniques to tame the sufferings in their life? Every week, are they becoming more and more the happy camper that they were born to be? So let's get on with it. One of the great tragedies of Buddhism is that it basically has devolved considerably over the last 26 centuries. When Buddhism first came on the scene, it stood in stark contrast to Hindu mysticism. In Hindu mysticism, we are taught that the mind has 2 modes, a playful mode and a peaceful mode. The playful mode, the turbulent mode, is bad, and the peaceful mode is good. And we're supposed to use whatever techniques we have at our disposal to force our mind into a peaceful place. And those techniques involve the use of chakras and mantras and visualizations and breathing exercises and whatnot. Buddha was a radical. He taught something completely different. He said, well, first of all, instead of just being 2 modes, there are 3 modes. Yes, the mind has a peaceful mode. Yes, the mind has a playful mode. It also has a perceptive mode that can be aware if it's being peaceful, and it can be aware if it's being playful. That's huge. It means we can do something about it. What Buddha proposed were that there were techniques that could make the most and take advantage of the dynamic energy that our mind exhibits when it's playful. And that there are other techniques that could really make the most out of the peaceful energy that our mind manifests when it's tranquil. And so the purpose of these techniques is not to shift the mind, but just to utilize its strengths that are manifesting in the moment. And so the idea is that something terribly bad about your mind being playful. There's nothing terribly good about your mind being peaceful. It's a question of how you make the most of it. So simply put, when your mind's in a playful, rambunctious mode, using the techniques of the Lam Rim, the intellectual trainings, is fabulous. When your mind is energetic, exploring gratitude, renunciation, compassion, wisdom, and love is fantastic. When your mind's peaceful, spontaneously peaceful, performing the central channel yogas of alternate nostril breathing, beginning central channel yoga, advanced central channel yoga, love and letting go, as well as awareness and letting go, that's ideal. So here's the funny thing. If you come to, let's say it's the time of day where you have the time and the energy to practice, and you sit down, and your mind's just rambunctious like a little kid after a Snickers bar. That's great. You started with your Lam Rim work, and by the time you come to your Chag Chen work, your mind's mellow. It spent all its energy doing the Lam Rim stuff. So now it can handle the Chag Chen stuff. Or in other words, you started off doing the teachings, now you're doing the techniques, and it works really fine. Sometimes we come to meditation, and the opposite thing is going on. Sometimes we come to meditation, and we just really feel mellow. So in that case, you start with the Chag Chen. You start with the techniques. And when your mind has had its fill, it'll feel more rambunctious and able to handle the Lam Rim practices or the teachings. And so what we're doing is we're not stuffing. Let's face it, sometimes our mind is a bit of a round peg, and to hammer it into a square hole could be disastrous. So what we're doing is we're wherever our mind is spontaneously at, and we are adjusting the practice accordingly. This tragedy is that this is no longer a common practice in Buddhism. This has become a rare practice in Buddhism. Most Buddhists practice like the Hindus used to practice now. They basically are just trying to make their minds peaceful and trying to shove it and push it and coerce it into a peaceful state at all possible costs. Please don't do that. That's a horrendous mistake. It's like children. Not all children are born to be doctors. Some are born to be artists. Not all children are born to be artists. Some are born to be doctors. Put a square peg in a square hole and a round peg in a round hole. Our mind changes all the time. One moment it's peaceful, the other moment it's playful. That's fine. That's neither good nor bad. That's just the nature of mind. And listen, we require both extremes of mind. We need our mind to be playful and alert and capable of multitasking for doing things like driving safely. And we need our mind to be able to access peace so that we can cultivate resilience and really internalize the Lama teachings on a deep, deep, visceral level. See, one of the neat things about remember we talked about you got teachings and techniques, and the teachings deal with the course, these wonderful course ideas of gratitude and renunciation and compassion and wisdom and love. And then you have the techniques, which although they deal chiefly with bliss and letting go, and love and letting go, and awareness and letting go, and although they're aimed chiefly at the channels, winds, and drops, they're also applying the course techniques of the teachings on a very, very subtle level. Now, subtle better than course? Are the teachings, are the techniques better than the teachings? No, they're both useful. Ask a bird, which wing is more important, your left or your right? The bird will tell you, both please. Both are required for me to take to the skies. Likewise, we require both the teachings and the techniques if we are to ascend to the skies of nirvana. Nirvana not being some far-off distance place, but a way of living. A way of living that is in spontaneous, habitual, easy, and effective harmony with the teachings of Buddha. That enables us to be the peaceful, joyful, resourceful, happy campers that we were born to be. So, in a nutshell, if you're feeling rambunctious, start with the Lam Rim, move into the Chag Chen. If you're feeling mellow, start with the Chag Chen, move into the Lam Rim. Now, these things may seem very, very difficult and very amorphous and very vague, and that's okay. But I promise you, by the time you've completed your first quarter, no less your second quarter, you'll be familiar with these things, and you'll be able to apply them. See, here's the thing. A lot of people, and this is a tragedy, a lot of people practice Tantric Buddhism like they're a bunch of Shriners or Masons. And, there's always a secret technique or a secret handshake or a secret code, a secret symbol they're holding off and only giving to special people. Now, the other extreme was every teaching available to everyone right off the bat. And the answer is let's find the happy medium. Let's face it. Even though it takes me 5 weeks or 6 weeks to go through the basic teachings, I'm setting people up for success. I'm not teaching someone, I'm teaching someone just as much as they can handle, and every lesson, no less and no more. It doesn't take years, it doesn't take decades to become worthy of the teachings. It can take hours or weeks. It's very, very simple. The problem with acting like a Shriner or a Mason and always holding back on a secret technique is that you're not giving people time to master the techniques. If someone waits 30 years to receive a technique, do they have to spend another 30 years mastering it? So I love the idea that the quicker people get the basic alphabet of spiritual techniques, the quicker people get the basic alphabet of Buddha's spiritual teachings, the more quickly they can process them and become familiar with them, and become comfortable with them, and become skilled with them. You see, this thing that separates the men from the boys, or the Buddhists from the Bodhisattvas, is not what teachings they've received, or what techniques they've learned, but the degree of mastery. A Bodhisattva practices the yogas of devotion, awareness, love, and letting go. But a Buddha practices the same techniques, but they've gotten so good at them that they are able to practice them spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. And that's what I want for you. So, in conclusion, let's not beat ourselves up. If you're feeling too mellow to contemplate the Lam Rim, that's okay. Start with the Chag Chen. If you're feeling too hyper to start with, single point meditation, that's okay. Start with the Lam Rim. The teachings were designed to be flexible. Because our mind, like everything else in our universe, is in a constant state of flux. You show me a teacher who's rigid. You show me a teacher who's inflexible. You show me a teacher who uses a cookie-cutter approach for each individual, and for each individual's challenge, and for each individual's mental state. And I'll show you a teacher who hasn't really viscerally rocked impermanence or interdependence. I'll show you a teacher who really isn't a very high bodhisattva, who hasn't really accomplished the path. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the happy camper that takes you laughingly by the hand and giggles and jokes with you as we not only traverse the path to enlightenment, but complete it in a record time. May you and yours be healthy and happy. Before you go, I want to remind you to find the subscribe button and click the like button. And of course, share it with your friends on the social networks. And of course, I want you to look below. There should be a link below so you can register for the next series of weekly webinars and we get this party jumping. Until next we speak, may you and yours be healthy and happy. Om Tade Tutade Ture Soha. Bye-bye.